Hey! What's up, everybody? And you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Miola and not Charlie Davies, but I'm going to raise my hand and say that's my fault. We were supposed to be live yesterday on the Golasso America YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to that, what are you doing with your lives? That's first. Second, my plane got delayed from New York City to San Francisco after I was in studio having fun with everybody on the Golasso network. So delayed 4.5 hours, Big Tones. And that's the worst because you're just itching to get home, you know?
You're telling me, man. I had a red-eye Sunday from LA to get back Monday morning to do a Monday night game, and all of a sudden, at about 15 minutes before the flight, they said it's canceled, and I was like, okay. Does that mean I lose my job?
Yeah, exactly.
But I made it back. I flew back. I got into the studio an hour. I got into the airport an hour and a half before the game. My son dropped my truck off with a suit, and I got down to the studio, made it just in time, brother.
Wow, you had a happy ending.
Man.
I did not. We had to postpone this podcast till today, and so we're going to let Chuck off the hook, but I would try to trigger him if he was on the show. All right, let's get into it. We got some midweek results to talk about. We put together our list of locks for this November window against Jamaica, so we'll see how many of the 23 we think are automatic locks for Mauricio Pochettino's coaching staff, and then, of course, we'll look ahead to all the big matchups, a lot of spicy ones this upcoming weekend, so lots to get into. Now, Tones, I want to start with Matt Turner, the goalkeeper, our number one, who is yet to see any time on his loan from Nottingham Forest to Crystal Palace, but he gets the start in the Carabao Cup at Aston Villa, a team that's flying high in all competitions, and he comes away as a 2-1 winner. However, the goal that he gave up, a lot of speculation that he should have done a lot better. In fact, the announcers were hammering him, saying he should have done better and he'd want that back. Where are you on Matt Turner's performance against Aston Villa, and do you think that goal was his fault?
Yeah, so a couple things. First off, great win for him. Great win for them. They needed it as much as he needed it, right?
True.
To get through
Good
there.
point.
Aston Villa, a great side, proven to be really difficult to play against. The announcers, I texted Des. I'm like, oh, these guys just being a little bit harsh here. They forget the fact that it went through the defender's legs. There was actually a deflection. I think Matt Turner will want it back. But I think when he goes back and looks at it, and they go back and look at it, it's not as easy as the announcers made it sound, Jimmy. But I always know when I hear an announcer who has no idea about goalkeeping, and I always know when I'm listening to them. But you know what? He's a pretty easy target right now, and I'm sure he gets it. When you're a backup in that position, it's a little bit harsher. But yeah, look, it's one that can be saved. I don't know that it's one that you blame him for, but in the end, good to see him get 90 minutes. Good to see them win. If you're a Nottingham Forest fan, I just think that Crystal Palace fan. If you look at I think it was his first game since Manchester United game, like in March. You remember he had played 7 national team games in between his last club starts. So it's a big moment for him. And the way that they're going right now is their justification. I mean, if you keep going like this, it's like insanity, right? So are you going to change anything at the club? Is he a guy that you might give a chance to from a national team standpoint? We hope so.
Of course.
You know, and it would be great for him, but nonetheless, I think all in all, solid performance from him, and as I said, a big win for them.
Yeah, Palace gave up 17 shots in that game. He made 8 saves, and what I thought was pretty cool, after he gave up that goal, obviously he's going to be probably disappointed. I know he holds himself to a high standard, and so he's going to want that one back from his own personal standpoint. He doesn't want to give up any goals, right? No goalkeeper wants to give up any goals. But what I did love is the body language I saw from his fellow defenders later on in the game. He'd make a big save or he put himself in a good spot to do something positive, and the guys would come around and give him a high five, or he'd be giving high fives to his defenders. And I like that a lot. I think that's a sign of respect to him as a goalkeeper, and also to potentially support him if he was feeling obviously reading between the lines here, feeling down after giving up that first goal. So yeah, to your point, Crystal Palace, big win here, and they back that up. Their first Premier League win over Tottenham the previous weekend, 1-0, to get this one midweek against Aston Villa. That's a tough part of the schedule for them to start getting results. Now, the Carabao Cup quarterfinals have been set. They're going to be at Arsenal on December 16th for the quarterfinal. That is Matt Turner's former club. Will he get the start in that one? Because in the previous round, Oliver Glasner, the manager for Palace, elected to start Dean Henderson in that one, and we were all disappointed because we thought, usually cup competitions go to the backup goalkeeper, but he gave him a chance here against Villa. I think we'll see him rolled out again. What do you think Glasner does at that point? Or do you think form will be taken if Dean Henderson's playing out of his mind leading into that game in December 16th? They just stick with Dean Henderson. What do you think, Tones?
Well, I think in the last round, right, with Dean Henderson, the thinking might be that, hey, we're not in good form right now. More often than not, as you mentioned, we make changes during the cup, but I need to find some rhythm. Like I need to get something right. So maybe we use the cup match to get something right. And you never know what these managers are thinking. In general, we normally see the backup goalkeepers playing at a minimum in these first couple of rounds, especially the EFL Cup. FA Cup may be a little bit different, right? So I would lean, if I had to bet, I'd lean towards Matt Turner because he got a win at this moment with the way things are going, that he gets at least that game. But I'm more interested to see what the big picture looks like right now. Because you never know. Like Glasner gets the win on the weekend, and I mean it's got to be just a weight off his back, right? Like to have something positive. Now you take a second positive. At a minimum, the thing Matt Turner probably did was maybe give him a conversation in his own head, Glasner, as to what I do. Like if I was thinking about it, you're going to think about it even more. If you weren't thinking about it, maybe he gave him a reason to think about making a change in that position. It's so hard, right?
Right.
It's so hard, especially because I was in a position in Jacksonville when things weren't going right. You think like you're doing all the right things and you're touching all the right points, but you're not getting results, right? And I think we lost 7 or 8 1-0 games at that point, right? And you bring all these attacking players in and you let them go and you out-create everyone. Then you start rethinking, okay, well, I got to make a change here. I got to do this. Like so many things go through your mind. And I know you do too, a lot of friends that are managing the league. And the biggest thing they always talk about is like have a conviction and like stick with it. Because if you keep changing and changing, you get in this cycle that is really difficult to get out of. So, but you got guys that I would think, Jimmy, like if you're let's say you're the third center back on that team right now, and you're giving up goals and you're not winning games, like you kind of feel like this might be my chance, and you're fighting to get in, and you got to take your chances when you do. And then at least the manager has a discussion in his head.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Glasner does. They play Wolves on the weekend. This is Palace. Wolves scoring a bunch of goals. Palace also might be out or without their 2 starting string pullers in Etse and Wharton. So we'll see if they can get fit enough to play. And then they got it home against Fulham before the international break. 2 opponents on paper that you think, especially given their current form, getting results against Tottenham and Villa, will feel like they should be driving that game and getting results. So we'll have to wait and see. If Matt Turner's between the sticks, we can hope, because those are big minutes ahead of obviously a big quarterfinal, 2-legged quarterfinal against Jamaica in the CONCACAF Nations League. Well, wasn't only Matt Turner's big midweek action we got to discuss. Juventus took on Parma, Big Tones. We were both in New York, I believe, covering that. Or were you there? I don't even know if you were there or not. I saw so many familiar faces. I don't think you were there. I see you all the time anyway, so I always feel like you're part of my daily life. But Weston McKennie and Tim Weah both started for Juve. Both of them got a goal, and Tim Weah actually had the assist to Weston McKennie's header. It ended 2-2, so no real cherry on top in terms of the results. And right now, Juve went from not giving up any goals to bleeding a whole bunch. They've given up 7 in their last 3 in all comps. But very awesome to see McKennie played in more of an advanced midfield role. And then you got Tim Weah, who actually hit the cross from the right side, even though he started on the left. When he scored his goal, he found himself in the middle. A lot of freedom for Tim Weah right now to run wherever he needs to run to make sure he can be dangerous. But, dude, 2 Americans scored for Juve. What kind of universe are we living in? That is awesome. That is awesome. That's so awesome.
I'm trying to think. Someone will probably remind us. Have you seen Timothy Weah with a better cross than that? I mean, he lined it up. He saw the target, and there probably was, but I mean, one just doesn't jump off the charts for me, and a good finish by Weston. Keep in mind that's 2 games in a row for Timothy Weah with goals, right? And Parma's a side. I was telling some friends, like, if you don't have a side in Italy, go watch Parma. They just got promoted. We get to see them on Paramount every week. They're a counterattacking team, so it's not an easy task when you play them because they commit so many numbers forward. So guys like Weston, especially in the middle of the field, have this responsibility to break things up. And I mean, Weston, I feel like we talk about him every week now, and rightly so. What else can you say about what he's done at that club right now, and how he's doing it? And it's so nice to see Weah come off of what probably was really, really heartbreaking for him, where he didn't know what the club thought about him or what they want to do. Mota says at the beginning of the year, yeah, you're one of my starters, and then match day 1, you go and get hurt, right? Just before you score a goal coming out at the half, and now you're back in. Because if you really think about it, Jim, some managers, like, they don't make changes when you're winning, right? No matter what, whether you're injured. Some people have this theory: if you're injured and you come back, you go right back into the lineup. Some managers say, no, it's just a matter of what my team is doing then. There was a real chance that Timothy Weah would have had to sort of wait his turn, right, if you will, for lack of a better term. Just sit around and wait until something happens. But he clearly believes in him, and clearly wants to see him on the field and giving him opportunities. So that's really that's really good to see.
Yeah, I think what's cool too, and we're getting some great comments from everybody here on the YouTubes, but I love that he's getting some that trust and belief from Mota, incredibly important. But also there seems to be this freedom to especially when the ball gets out wide right. Or I don't even know if it's a freedom, but more of a demand. Like, we need you to get into the middle of the box, because that's the second game in a row that he's got an assist at the near post from Conceição, who's doing some nice work beating players off the dribble, and then he puts himself in a good spot to make it happen. That's really promising. That there's, instead of, more often than not, wingbacks just like to stay out wide in the channels, but there seems to be a real emphasis on getting him more centrally located when the ball's out wide to the right. And yeah, it's a good time. I'm all in. This is I'm bullish. I'm bullish on Tim Weah. The thing is, he's playing on the left at the moment, cutting in on his right, and that's where Christian Pulisic likes to set up. Now, obviously, he's played many, many, many minutes for us and scored against Wales in the World Cup, playing on the right and cutting in. So he's not going to have any problem with that, but I'm curious how Mauricio Pochettino elects to use him, especially if you've got ideas of putting Yunus Musah as our wing back currently, and where does Weah pinch? But he could pinch in. He could maybe play kind of that 10 that Brendan Aronson was playing. He put Brendan Aronson off the bench. Lots to talk about. We'll get into our locks here after the break. But I do want to say that Tim Weah, now with that goal, is tied for third among Americans in scoring in Serie A history. You got Christian Pulisic on top. He's got 17 goals in 44 appearances. Weston McKennie's got 10 goals in 110 games for Juve. I can't believe he's played that many. That's pretty awesome. You have Michael Bradley, who had 3 goals as well for Chievo and Roma. And then you have Timothy Weah with 3 in 36 games for Juventus. Alexi Lawless got 2. Give a shout out to Lex there. Busio's also got 2 goals. So that's your top 6, all things considered. And then this is a fun fact. Shout out to Ivis in our private chat. McKennie is 6th among all Serie A players in assists in all competitions since the start of the 2023-24 season. 12.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive. And there's clearly a demand from him, or at least from Mota, to get him more linked up and trying to get higher up the field. And he's dangerous. I love his late runs. He's so good at that trailing run that I really appreciate.
Yeah,
go ahead.
He has this real commitment to get in the box, and he always has, right? Even at Schalke, if you remember, there was that preseason in Schalke where McKennie played during that preseason as a center back, and he also played as a number 9 in the team, right? Like, but he loves getting in the box. He has an energy, and when you're smart and you can come late in the box, as a defender, right? Like, you're constantly, your entire career, I'm sure you screamed at midfielders to track players back, because as a center back, you're generally marking somebody, right? Like, you have a responsibility, and you're just looking ahead, and when midfielders get beat in the midfield, there's like no recovering for them. And if you're smart enough, and he does a really good job of that, to find space late, but it's been part of his game his entire career, and I can't imagine that will ever change. So yeah, it's good to see him, get a goal, and good to see those 2 guys link up.
Yeah, they clearly have a great relationship as well. That rapport is very evident. All right, let's move over to another club with a couple Americans on it in Italy. That is AC Milan. They lost 2-0 at home at the San Siro to Napoli. And Yunus Musah started, played all 90 minutes. I have a couple notes on him. Christian Pulisic didn't start, had flu-like symptoms before the game, ended up coming off the bench, maybe played the last 20, 30 minutes, and had a couple of shots, put himself in some good areas. But there seems to be the more Rafael Leao issue, not starting him. He comes on, and they got to solve that. Paulo Fonseca's got to solve that. But Yunus Musah, let's get back to him. 90 minutes, 50 touches, 2 shots, 4 recoveries overall. Some good moments there. He put himself in a good spot. Big tones where good pressuring from Milan overall. It's in the first half. I still believe it was 1-0 Napoli at that point. And when he goes to step in front of the Napoli holding midfielder, whoever it was, his touch just gets away from him. If that first touch is clean, the second touch is a shot. And I'm not going to say a goal 100%, but it would have been a really, really good opportunity. Instead, that first touch got away from him. The goalkeeper comes out and smothers it, and then that chance was dead. And that kind of summed it up for me, because there was another play that happened in the second half, or maybe it was the first half, where a ball got cleared up and he had dropped back in, or it was like a cross. He goes way up in the field, like high, and he just was really casual by the end line to try to bring it down. And then Napoli just came and stole it from him, and they kept the play going, kept it alive, and got a good shot on goal. These are just these little moments, these details that it's clear Yunus is supremely talented. But these little details, if he's not going to clean these up, if he continues to be casual in these little moments, I don't think he's going to ever take that next step, because you got to be consistently good in all these little things,
Yeah, especially in the midfield. But I think, first off, I thought in general his game was good. There were some really positive things. But I think some of the things you're talking about, you might be talking about the Gilmore right in the middle of the field. By the way, Gilmore and McTominay in the midfield for an Italian team is just running things right now. He had that play with McTominay where he kind of megged him and he gets around him and then he cut him again, and which I guess ran its route on social media for a little while. But I think some of the things you're mentioning, like when you're sharp and when you're playing every week, maybe those things don't happen because you're up to speed with the game. So we can only hope that that he gets more minutes. I wonder how Fonseca looks at it. I still don't think Fonseca knows who his best team is, but I think he knows that Christian Pulisic needs to be on the field. And it was interesting because prior to the game, everything you read said Christian Pulisic was not part of it. And then after the game, Fonseca said something to the effect like, we were waiting, like he was almost waiting by minutes to see if Christian would get healthier as the day went on. And he ends up putting him on the bench, but he didn't know if he was gonna use him. So they may have been just monitoring the entire game, just good enough to get him on the field in a moment like that. Because, Jimmy, at this time of year, more often than not, when you're sick like that, a manager just says you're off, right? Because we don't want to burn you. We don't want to let the wick get down too deep and just keep burning it. But he knows he needs him on the field right now, and he made a difference when he came on.
He did.
It just probably anyone can relate to it, right? You just got low energy, like you're not really where you want to be for the day. But expectation is that he plays this weekend. They got Monza, which is not a great side. There's speculation. I don't think Fonseca goes anywhere. I also don't think Milan loses on the weekend, but they are away to Monza. So it's always tricky to go away from home. But the expectation is that Pulisic is going to be in the 90. The storyline could be if Musah is in the playing 90 minutes or in the starting lineup.
Yeah, so a couple things, and I'm glad you reminded me of Musah's chance. He had it would have been an incredible goal where he cuts in, 2 defenders coming towards him, gets it back to his right foot, top of the box, and curls it to the back. I mean, he misses the post by, we're talking an inch or two. If that goes in, we're talking about Yunus Musah as like the golden child. He's on it. He's ready to go. He's going to take off. And also, I want to just throw out there that he was probably playing, this is according to a lot of my Milan friends, and you could either confirm or deny this, is one of my other Milan friends that love the club. That was one of the worst back fours that he could have played in front of in terms of what Milan started. It just was not not a very good team that he was surrounded by.
Don't start me, Jimmy.
Okay. So I'm just saying, like, when we think about Yunus and if you're just watching him and you're trying to compare it, I mean, I do think that part of it needs to be brought into the equation. If he's not playing with all the best players that Milan have available and you're putting like a stopgap starting at 11 and Musah's just trying to make it all work, maybe trying to do too much or not really knowing where he should be based on the personality or player profile of everybody else, sometimes that can work.
But you know how it goes, right? Like if you're not a starter, oftentimes that's the position you're in, right? Like that's you don't always get the chance to go. It's a cup game, right? When a manager plays, different players and those, like you don't always get like what's perfectly suited for you. You got to kind of work your way into that. And I think Musah is probably in that position, and that's unfortunate, right? Because I think we all feel like, and we've been saying for a while, we all have this idea that Musah's got like not one more gear, but maybe 2 or 3 more gears in his game and his career. But that's only going to come out if you're playing, right? So hopefully, like I said, hopefully this leads to something good. I don't think that there's a negative coming out of this game with regards to Fonseca thinking about who Yunus Musah is as a player.
That's fair. That's a great shout. Also, not only do Milan have to travel to Monza this weekend, a couple days after that, they have to go to Madrid to take on Real Madrid in the Champions League. That's right. Match day 4 is coming. Make sure if you're not subscribed to Paramount Plus, get over there. You can get all the games, the Europa League, everything else that's included under the umbrella of Paramount Plus, which is a lot of leagues, including Serie A. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to get into our roster lock conversation, so don't go anywhere.
Get ready for more UEFA Champions League action.
Absolutely astonishing. It's an exceptional goal. It's been bonkers football.
It's the UEFA Champions League on CBS Sports Network and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
All right, welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Big Tones, and we are going to get into our roster predictions, our roster locks for this upcoming international window where we're going to play against Jamaica over 2 legs, once in Kingston and once in St. Louis, November 14th, November 18th, CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal. Lots here. Now, meaningful games, not just friendlies, meaningful games for Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff. So the producers challenged us, Big Tones, to put together who we thought would be locks for that. And I think that's going to be an interesting conversation to have. And so we're going to go line by line. Okay, everybody ready for this? Hopefully you're ready for this. Goalkeepers. This is who we have locked. We merged our 2 together and Charlie's as well. We'll throw Charlie into the mix. And if you guys don't like any of our selections, Charlie picked that. But we got Matt Turner in goal and Patrick Schulte would be the other automatic lock. I had Ethan Horvath on my list because I just don't know who else would be that third goalkeeper. So that would be the only add there. But I think Turner and Schulte are in for sure.
Yeah, keep in mind, right? They're going to take a third goalkeeper. Gaga now's on the bench, but who knows if that's going to last or if that was a 1-week thing, right? Playing the second to last place team in the league. But how about if you're going to consider Ethan Horvath, who's sitting on the bench, why not consider Koshin, who's also now sitting on the bench, right, at Barcelona? Like, and because we don't think the third goalkeeper is going to play. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen. But we bring a third goalkeeper into camp all the time. But why not bring a young guy like that in again? And see what he can do and see how he fits in. And I talked to Brian Dunseth, my good buddy, who was working at the game, the last camp, and he kept telling me about him and his reflexes and how comfortable he seems to be for a young goalkeeper. Kid's a teenager, and to just look really, really comfortable, great with the ball at his feet. So if Pochettino wants to do that, and we don't have a real idea how intricate the goalkeeper will be in the buildup, that might be a positive for him, but he said he's a really good shot stopper. Got to watch him train for an entire week. I wish I could watch him train for a little while and see him play. But so if you're going to take someone in, I don't know, call it a backup position, right? Like, why not take a guy like him? But you and I didn't have him on the list, and so the viewers know our 3 lists we didn't do together. We sent in 3 separate lists, and they just put these things together for us.
Yeah, good way to cap tie coaching as well. So that's something to take into consideration, assuming he's got to play. But the writing would be on the wall from a Horvath perspective. If you're not bringing him in for this, not to say it's not done and dusted, right? If he's going back in there and playing well, maybe gets called back in. But he's 29 years old, which we know is kind of the beginning of your peak as a goalkeeper, potentially as a center back as well. That's where I kind of had my started my renaissance or my I didn't even have a renaissance. I didn't come back from anything. I just started at that point. But but it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, especially for the third goalkeeper. All right, let's go look at the defenders. So of the 23 that we expect to get called in, we only had 16 locks. So I'm kind of curious what everybody thinks in the chat right now, and then hit us up at Golasso America on any social media that you want and let us know your thoughts on this. But defenders, we had Joe Scally, Mark McKenzie, Anthony Robinson, and Tim Ream. That's it. Those were our 4 defender locks. And I wonder how everybody's gonna feel about that. I didn't have Trusty in. Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think he'll get I can't remember if I had him in my list or not, but it would make sense since he just played this last game with Austin Trusty in Celtics 2-0 win against Dundee. So I assume that CCV is in, but did we miss anybody? Did you have
yeah, so I'm looking at the list when I sent it to Des, our producer, and I didn't have Cameron Carter-Vickers on there. I can't say at this moment I'm a huge fan, only because I don't know, I can't get Copa America out of my head, and that's probably my fault. It's not his fault. Everyone kind of makes mistakes, right?
Well, it's kind of his fault. He made the mistake.
Well, I guess, but the whole and then the other thing is, like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting the league at all, but I just don't know how much pressure each week those guys are really under in the Scottish league, right? I mean, we could say it's Celtic, they play in Europe and all of that stuff. Those games maybe. Yeah, Trusty, I didn't put him as a lock. I don't know if anybody.
No, I didn't put him as a lock either.
These guys won't be in camp. We were just giving names that we thought for sure, like Pochettino's going to build around these guys. Here's the defenders. And then he's going to fill in the gaps however he wants to with his roster. And that's kind of how I took the assignment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think we kind of we're so close on all of these. McKenzie, there's no doubt about it. Tim Ream, I just think after what I saw in the last camp, he's going to be there. Joe Scally, we need to right back. Oh, the other one I had on the list, Jimmy, which I'm imagining the two of you didn't, was Lund. And I don't know that I'm a huge fan yet of Lund. I just don't know like what the other options at left back are. Like we have Anthony Robinson, but we need another option, right? Like, right. So I had him on my list when I sent it in. It's not on this combined list.
Yeah, I'm with you on the league. I don't know if the Scottish League really tests him. When I took a look at parts of the game against Dundee, and obviously you can just look at the stats, and I watched the highlights, and I tried to take a deeper dive because we have some access because Scottish Premiership is under the Paramount Plus umbrella, but they're just not getting tested. They're not getting a lot of questions asked of them. So you have to go into the Champions League, or they played Aberdeen a little bit earlier in the season. That was 2-2, one of their stiffer competition in Scotland right now, and they're going to play Aberdeen again this weekend in the Scottish Cup semifinals. So that'll be of interest. But when they went into Dortmund in the Champions League, and Dortmund's not even really, I mean, they were pretty good at that moment, but haven't looked so good since then. They lost 7-1 and didn't have any answers. They couldn't answer any questions. And that's what I want to know. Like, okay, if we're using Trusty and CCV as the examples here, and they're playing in Scotland, then teams that we're going to have, the U.S., when we're playing against, let's say, a smaller nation that we expect to have a lot of the possession, then okay, they're going to be very good at just kind of staying switched on when they're not really involved all that much. But when we play the big boys, when we play against Colombia in a warm-up prior to the Copa America, when we're playing against Uruguay, when you're being asked questions all of the time, I just don't think they're going to have those same type of reps under that type of pressure, which is, I think, what you're getting to. And then when we see evidence of what that looks like, they're getting their asses slapped. Now, I know they went to Bergamo and got a 0-0 draw with Atalanta in the last match day. And again, they weren't necessarily driving that game. But they held on and they got a pretty good result against a team that's the highest scoring team in Serie A. So I don't want to take anything away from them from that standpoint. Yeah. But to your point, on that week-to-week basis, I don't know if they're being asked enough questions to be like, yep, that's the guy. That's who's going to lead us in our back line. However, we have some holes ultimately because nobody's really stepped up and taken over. Anyway, I could go on and on. Let's go to the midfielders. So midfielders, let's get to Tyler Adams. I have him in for sure. He's back. He's training. And we're going to get into a quote from his coach very quickly. But we said Johnny Cardoso as well, starting regularly for Real Betis. They got a big game this weekend, so that will be interesting to see how he performs. Yunus Musah is in. Weah McKennie and Busio. And I got Brendan Aronson as a midfielder, even though Chuck has him down as an attacking player or striker, as it were. I feel pretty good about those. What is it, 6 players coming in? How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking at my list here again that I sent this. By the way, with regards to Aronson, I still look at him as a forward too. I put him as a midfielder because everyone wants to see. I look at the 10s as forwards. I just can't in my head. Because when I think of using a 10 as a midfielder, I think more defensive. Like I think we're talking more defensively. Where when I think of the 10 as an attacking player, I feel like I'm more of an attacking guy. In my head, right? So. Right. I don't know. You could split it up either way, but I had him on my list, and I don't think I had Weston, Busio, Aaron. Oh, I had Jordan. I'm not Jordan Morris. Aiden Morris on my list. I don't know if you had him on. I don't think Charlie had him on.
Yeah, I don't. He was a really tough one for me. I had Aiden Morris in because he started the last 2 games for us. And I do think there's a clear respect for the way that he plays and maybe the way that he partners with Busio in particular. So I think Aiden Morris is a lock. But then it gets a little – in that particular area of the field, we get kind of dense because if you're bringing Tyler back in, you bring in Cardoso in, and then you have Busio who's more deep lying, and then you have Musah who could also play in those areas. So can McKennie. Then you're like, well, maybe Aiden Morris doesn't fit in this time around. But I'd still bring him because obviously he put in –
I think you got to bring Tyler, right?
Tessman's another one.
Yeah, Tyler, you have to bring, even if you're not going to play him all that much. I think Tyler needs to be integrated in the group, especially if he's training. 100%. Yeah, Tessman, I didn't have on the list. I don't know if you had him on.
I want to put him on the list, but because he wasn't part of the original list and he only got brought in because of an injury,
that where I went.
Some hesitation.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I went with it. Yeah. So we're pretty close.
Yeah, Leon's playing Lille today, and I'm curious. Tessman starts. We should probably have the lineup if he's starting. Sweet, that's a good sign. All right, let's get into the forwards then. And with this part of the list, we have Ricardo Pepi, who's on fire right now. We'll see how. Listen, PSV plays Ajax this weekend. We'll see if he gets to start. He started the last one and scored a bunch of goals, but I think Luke De Jong will be in. So back to the bench for Ricardo Pepi. That's my guess. Timothy Weah, we've already talked about him. He's in the team for sure. Christian Pulisic. Haji Wright. What I think is the one big name that's interesting that's been left off is Josh Sargent. So Josh Sargent is not.
I had him on my list. I had him on. I'm looking here. I sent it into Des on my list.
I can't. I gotta have to look now to see if I had him in there. But yeah. So Sargent is interesting. I would continue to bring him in. But it's an opportunity to potentially give somebody else a start there. I wouldn't start him, I guess, at this point. You bring him in, but maybe don't start him. It's tricky. Also, Brandon Vasquez, not in this list. There's got to be some Gio Reyna, obviously. He's still hurt. Not in this list.
You know, now you said Vasquez. I maybe should have put him on the list. I think
I had Sargent in my list.
Yeah, I think he might have been the most effective forward we had in the last camp in that Mexico game for the short period of time that he played. I wonder if it just sparked something for Pochettino. I don't know that he's a lock, but now that you mention his name, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in camp now.
Yeah,
What does it mean that Vasquez came into a game that was 2-0? We're getting a comment here. Well, I mean, what does that mean? He put him in. He put him in and did well. I mean, he created, I think, our only chance of the game that the goalkeeper made a save on. Right? Like I don't understand. Like that Mexico was coasting by them. Mexico didn't coast that whole game. Mexico sucked in that game. They just sucked less than we did in that game. That's a terrible Mexico team. Like there was not one endearing quality about watching Mexico in that game. Let's not fool ourselves that was a good team.
But hey, we're Mexico, everybody. We suck just a little less than you.
we did. Don't you think? I mean, we came right on. We came on right after that. So yeah, look, I'm a Vasquez fan.
Same.
I'm a Vasquez fan. I really think he gives us a different profile. But of course, that's up to Pochettino. And I would have had him in camp. There were times where I don't understand how Greg didn't bring him in camp. And I said as much on multiple occasions. He's a different, just like I thought before the World Cup, Daryl Dike was a different profile. Of course, he ended up getting hurt. But at the time, if you remember, what was it? It was one of the tournaments when he hurt his shoulder, like in the first 10 minutes of the game. I don't know if it was Gold Cup or it was Nations League, because they all kind of seemed the same to me a couple of years later. Right. I look at Daryl Dike as like a different profile back then of a player we didn't have. Haji Wright ended up filling that role for Greg Berhalter on that 22-man World Cup roster, that he was the guy he talked about after he picked him, that he gave a different profile. And I'm laughing because Ivis also put in there, Vasquez hasn't started any of Monterrey's past 6 matches. That really doesn't seem to matter with our national team anymore.
Pochettino said otherwise, but I guess Matt Turner
remember he said a year out, though. Within a year out, all these guys got to be playing.
They got to be playing.
So that's a big difference. I think he's got to see all these profiles. But yeah, if he goes back to the last camp, if he hadn't started in 6 games, did he start prior to that camp? He couldn't have had 6 games between that camp and now, right?
That's a challenge for Ivis. I do want to say, in defense of Josh Sargent, hasn't been scoring lately, obviously for the national team since 2019, which is wild to say out loud. And then for Norwich, where he had been scoring at a pretty good clip, hasn't scored in his last 3, but has 2 assists. Though it must be nice to play with Borja Sainz. That guy is incredible. I don't know if you guys have watched any Norwich games, but this Borja Sainz is unbelievable. This guy just scores bangers every single week. So if you're dropping that guy a couple dimes, he's definitely going to hit the back of the nets. All right, everybody, we're going to take our next break, our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to preview the weekend. So many spicy matchups coming up, so do not go anywhere.
A new crown awaits.
Brilliantly taken.
The journey to become European football royalty has begun.
A stunning goal.
The UEFA Europa League on CBS Sports Network, and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
Yes! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the stretch run of Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside U.S. men's national team legend, proper legend, Tony Meola. Now, Big Tones, we got some notable fixtures we're going to start with for our player pool this weekend, and there are some good ones, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Lille versus Lyon today at 4 p.m. Eastern. That'll be on BN Sports. Then on Saturday, we're going to move to Leeds versus Plymouth. So you have Leeds who didn't score against Bristol last weekend, but they created a lot of chances. So we'll see if they can hit the back of the net against a team that likes to give up a lot of goals and chances. That's on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, Paramount Plus. Udinese versus Juventus. That's a great game. That'll be Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Golazo Network. Ajax versus PSV. Wow, that is a cracking game. First versus second. PSV hold an 8-point lead at the top, but Ajax have a game in hand and just beat Feyenoord midweek. Monza versus AC Milan. That'll be on Saturday as well on the Golazo Network, 3:45 p.m. Eastern. Athletic Club versus Real Betis. That'll be Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. We'll see if Johnny Cardoso gets the run out once again for Manuel Pellegrini. We have some honorable mentions, but before we get to those, any of those notable fixtures that stand out for you that you'll be keeping your eye on, Big Tones?
Well, today we'll see Tessman, right? So that lineup should be out here in about 25 minutes or so. So if he's in that lineup, that would be one that I'd tune into. Juventus, I look, we know Weston, right? I want to see what the path looks like for Timothy Weah and where he plays. I think that's pretty interesting what's happening there with him.
Udinese, can we just say are pretty good this season. I know they
started well. Yeah.
they had a
Yeah,
2-0 lead over Venezia in their last game, and they gave up 3 goals to lose 3-2. But they're in 7th right now. And Milan Juve have dropped to 6th with a 2-2 draw with Parma. So it's not like Udinese. Yeah, they started strong, and so now maybe they're getting found out a little bit, and maybe some key guys are getting a little bit more tired along the way if they've been doing all the heavy lifting. But this is going to be. I just don't think this is going to be a straightforward game for Juve. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No. Udinese is always a tricky side, and they always have been for teams. And yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure. The Betis game, Athletic Club and Betis, Johnny Cardoso. I mean, we haven't really seen much of him, right? That'll be an interesting one to watch. Of course, I'll watch Milan because I do every week anyway. But
yeah,
that Betis game, watching Johnny and how he fits into the midfield. Because look, I think at a minimum, we think Tyler Adams is the guy, right? And he is the guy in the middle of the field. But at a minimum, Aiden Morris and Busio, and maybe even Tessman to some extent, because we don't know what Pochettino thought about any of those guys. He started 2 of them, and then Tessman came in twice. Johnny Cardoso's got more work to do than maybe he had under Greg Berhalter to do, to get into that next sort of tier of guys. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So now, at least you're creating a little bit of competition in that. And if you're Johnny Cardoso, right, you probably feel that. I would imagine you feel that. You sense that. And now we see what he can do and how he performs and look, he's been doing well at Betis since literally the day he walked in the door there. Yeah. And hopefully he continues to get, minutes. And when is that one? That's Sunday.
That's on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern.
All right.
Well, getting back to Tanner Tessman, looking like he's not going to start. Early reports out of France saying he's not starting this game. This is a big derby between Lille and Lyon. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully he'll get some minutes later on in the game. Some honorable mentions. We have Bournemouth versus Man City. We're going to talk about Tyler Adams here in a second. That's on 11 a.m. Eastern. You have Middlesbrough versus Coventry, 11 a.m. on Saturday as well. Dortmund versus Leipzig. I don't know if we're going to see Gio Reyna. I think he's still hurt, but Cole Campbell got some minutes in their last game. Will he come out? 18-year-old, just dices people up. He's an excellent player. Just hopefully he can get more first-team minutes. It's really exciting. I think he's got a bright future. Also on Saturday, Celtic versus Aberdeen, Scottish League Cup semifinal, as we talked about a little bit before. But let's get into Andoni Iraola's comments about Tyler Adams. He's the manager of Bournemouth. He said this: he's training well. He looks very confident. And I think obviously knowing he's only played 15 to 20 minutes in the last months, but I see him in a very good spot. So I don't know what that means. Bournemouth taking on Man City. Do you want to risk him basically chasing the ball for 90 minutes? Because that's what it looks like when you play against Man City. This is obviously promising news. And if he can get some minutes and start to build into something special, maybe Mauricio Pochettino starts to look at Tyler as a possible starter for that first game against Jamaica and Kingston.
Yeah. Do you risk him chasing the ball, or do you put your best ball winner on the field in a game you're gonna have to chase the ball for, right? So yeah, don't you hope he gets some minutes in this one, right? Like,
I hope he does. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we want to see. So what were the minutes? They were limited last game. So what's the next progression? Is it 30 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? Like, we always go in these progressions when these guys are coming back. So hopefully whatever the next step is, that's what he gets, and comes into camp and maybe. I can't really see him playing more than 45 minutes in a lot of these games coming up. But hell, if you're healthy, you're healthy. Like, he's had some freaky injuries, not things that most people get. Like, the back one was really, really weird.
But that ties into your hamstring though, right? I mean, if you have a hamstring injury,
you're
trying to get to the root cause, and usually lower back and hamstring are intricately intertwined, as it were. So we'll have to wait and see. He got 9 minutes, technically 9 minutes against Aston Villa.
So what is it, 30 next? Like, what would be the next logical progression?
It's
20?
Such a tricky position too, right? I mean, you don't usually make a sub to that area unless you're getting completely overrun.
Unless you're chasing the ball.
Yeah, unless you're chasing the ball and you got tired legs out there. But yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. You give him 10, and then the following week, if he's training well, you give him 30. 30 goes into a half, and the half maybe turns into a start at some point. And now you're trying to get him closer to 60. So we'll have to wait and see. They're clearly being thoughtful, overly thoughtful in some ways, not risking him to do too much. So we'll see. I'm hopeful that he'll get some valuable minutes against obviously a top opponent. And we already know he's going to go out there and run his ass off and try to kick as many people as possible and really set the tone. I love that about Tyler Adams, and long may that continue. Do not ever change. All right, let's get into some MLS playoffs preview to finish up the show. Now, we're in leg 2 of this 3-game series. Big Tones, I was yesterday years old when I found out. Well, I was probably a couple days older than that, but I didn't know that it didn't go into like extra time after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know it just went straight to penalties. If I'm an away team, that's all let's just play for penalties. If I'm away, let's make it really tough. We'll try to take our 1 or 2 chances when we can, set pieces or counterattack, whatever. But if we can't hit that, listen, I'm going to put trust in the goalkeeper, put trust in you guys to take penalties. That's crazy to me. It doesn't feel. I don't know if I like this format. That's a really long way of me saying that.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd wish we'd settle on one, right? But I guess we're going to keep trying one every year until one just kind of really sticks. But keep in mind though, of the 8 series game ones, 2 away teams won. They were both on the same night, the last night on Tuesday. So game I did, the Red Bulls beat Columbus away.
That's a big one.
And Minnesota beat RSL away from home 5-4 on penalty kicks. So that was the only one that in your format, sort of the away team trying to go to penalty kicks, if you will. A couple of series went to penalty kicks. The shockers, I think, obviously Columbus losing at home. I call that game. Red Bull deserved every point of that game and could have won that one 3-0 in the end. Although Coronel had to make a massive save at 0-0 on DeJuan Jones, I believe it was, at the back post. The shocker, I don't know if it's a shocker. LA, man, just rolled over the Colorado Rapids.
I agree. 5-0 in that game.
Oh, that was painful to watch. LAFC in Vancouver. So they asked me, these dumb predictions all the time. You know how much I hate those predictions as much as I hate grading after games.
We know.
But they asked me of the teams I thought that maybe could pull off upsets. I picked Vancouver as potentially an upset. I'm going to call that game this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. I picked the Red Bulls as a potential upset as well.
You're looking good right now. You're looking.
Yeah, like at least. Yeah, I mean, you got to give something. And the other one, oddly enough, I picked Atlanta, potentially pulling off something because they actually played well against Miami twice now and don't come out with a result. So, I mean, you got to pick somebody, right? So I picked, they asked me to pick 3 teams. Those were the 3 that I picked, and who knows? But I thought Red Bull in that one was worth all 3 points for me.
All right, so I'm going to give everybody the scores, and then we're going to talk about these next ones, and I'm going to force you to pick, Big Tones, against your will. The first playoff game, Inter Miami beat Atlanta 2-1. LA Galaxy beat Colorado 5-0. Orlando City hosting Charlotte beat them 2-0. LAFC beat Vancouver 2-1. Cincinnati squeaking by the 1-0 win over NYCFC. And then you have Seattle Sounders winning in penalties over Houston Dynamo. New York Red Bulls went into Columbus, won that one 1-0. And Minnesota did kind of smash and grab, got the 0-0 draw, and then won in penalties. So they go back to Minnesota feeling pretty good about themselves. Though I do like RSL. They have a little bit of grit to them. So let's talk to the first one. Charlotte versus Orlando. Orlando's obviously leading that first game 2-0. Do you think Charlotte can find a way back into this, Big Tones? I could see them winning this one, but ultimately I've got Orlando getting into the next round. I mean, which of these teams do you think will get into the round 2 next? You know what I mean? Like, we'll book their ticket to the next round.
Yeah, I'll give you mine here. Miami in 3, LA Galaxy in 2, Orlando in 3 games, LAFC in 3 games, Cincy in 3 games. Okay. Seattle in 3 games, Columbus in 3, and Salt Lake City in 2.
Okay, so you have Columbus.
RSL, yeah.
So you have Columbus winning in New York and then going back to Columbus
and coming back to win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, they beat them 3 times this year. Prior to that, this is the first time the Red Bulls, they just beat them on decision day. Although there's a rotated lineup in New York 3-2. on decision day. So
It's a lot of
it's a
games
road.
against the same team.
Yeah, this could be. Yeah, it would potentially be 4 games in a row against the same team because they ended up playing on decision day. So it's a weird quirk in the schedule. But
We talk
I don't
about
know how
two-legged affairs. This is a 4-legged affair.
4. Yeah.
Between Red Bull New York and Columbus. Yeah, that's.
How about you? Where are you going with any of these?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that as much as I appreciate what Charlotte has in place, what Dean Smith has done with the team, I like Orlando this year. I think they're really dynamic, and they can hurt you in a couple different ways with different players up top. So I think Orlando ultimately gets past Charlotte. I don't know if they'll do it this weekend. Maybe in Pens. I got the Galaxy beating Colorado. The Galaxy were the best team in round 1 of this 3-legged series, or this 3-game series. It's so good. And Colorado was really, really bad. And Georgi Mihailovic might not be fully fit for this game. And Cole Bassett, another player they rely on to get some stuff, he might not be fit for this one either. And even if they are, they're not 100%, Cincinnati, NYCFC. I like NYCFC in round 2 here. Atlanta United into Miami. I think Messi's going to do what Messi does. I think Miami gets past them. Minnesota, RSL. I like RSL. They're going to be tough. I could see it going to penalties again. Then we'll see. Coin flip there. Columbus to come back. Sounders versus Houston. It's a really good matchup. I love that. But with Coco Carrasquilla getting a red card, I think that gives Sounders an advantage. So I'll have the Sounders go through.
He lost his mind, huh? On that play? Just a rush of blood to the head.
He should know better. He should know better. And then I like Vancouver too. I could see them getting a result in leg 2, but ultimately I have LAFC going through, and that's going to set up a lot of fun games in the next round, which are after this, everybody. All one-legged affairs at the home of the team that has the best record. So there you go. That's it. That's all we got. That's a lot of games this weekend, Big Tones. That's a lot of games.
Yeah, you're telling me. Do you know the finals? Does it go straight to penalty kicks, or does that one go to? I don't. I should know that, and I don't know it.
I don't know that either.
Yeah,
and they seem to change the rules, so I think we're okay not knowing.
Oh, extra time.
I'd say extra time for sure.
Yeah, I was just saying extra time. Yeah, that. I haven't looked that far out because there's a lot of games to cover between now and then.
Yeah.
Between now and the finals of MLS Cup. But anyway, yeah, it looks like extra time. Thanks, Ivis.
Extra time, and just so many games this weekend. Very excited about that. Also, I want to give a shout out to my Dodgers. Go on, Dodgers. I went to World Series Game 4, and of course they lost.
I saw, Jimmy. I was gonna. Yeah, I don't tweet like at people. I was gonna say something to you, but.
Come on, Dodgers. I'm proud of my guys, even though we spent like $1 bajillion to make sure we had the team to go on to win it.
Yeah.
So did the Yankees. So I guess it's 2 evil empires battling each other out. But that's it. That's all we got. We're calling it a show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. As always, we appreciate the support. Come join us again on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern here live on the Golazo America YouTube channel. And we're going to get after it. As always, we'll have a lot of games to break down. It should be a lot of fun. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend, everybody. Later.